All right, Steve, welcome to Basketball Illuminati. It's great to see you again, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I feel good. I feel great. Happy to be here. Ready to talk some hoop. I've got my third eye open, et cetera, et cetera. Reds to go.
Well, don't go through the motions, man. Connecting dots.
No mistakes, no coincidences.
No coincidences.
No, you'll prove that with this discussion, right? You don't even need to say it. You just hear, and people can tell that you're part of the Illumination, which you are. You're already part of the Illumination. And my first question to you is, Game 7, the two greatest words in sports, or is it the greatest set of one number and one word in sports?
What?
I think it's the two greatest words in sports, but they're weird. They're always weird. They're their own game. Nothing else that happened before it really matters. Buddy Hield goes off.
I think 7 is a number. I think 7 is a number. It's not a word.
Are we going literal?
Yeah, I don't want to divert this too much, Tom, but Zach and I had a very heated argument about numbers being math. And he was adamant that numbers are not math, they're symbols. And I was adamant that they're symbols for math. They don't mean anything without math involved. But we can move on. I'm with you. Numbers... 7 is a number.
It always throws me off when it's like Game 7, the greatest two words in sports. And I'm like, I kind of feel like it's one word and one number.
What if you
throws me off?
Does it make a difference?
It's always
but if you say Steve, game Seven.
Steve, you're preparing for Lionel Hollins, Dave Yeager. You're preparing like a Game 7 scouting report. Are you writing out the word 7, or are you just doing the number 7?
Number 7.
Yeah.
But you're also not writing out. Hold on, Steve. You're not writing out game either. You put G7, don't you?
Also true.
Also
true.
Checkmate.
Very true.
Checkmate.
Oh my God. All right, fine. So it's not even words. There's 0 words. It's just the greatest letter plus number in sports is Game 7. And we got a great one with Warriors and Rockets. At Houston, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Game 1, Cleveland and Indiana, a stunner. Cleveland gets upset in Game 1. But can you explain to the audience a little bit? Your background is not just an incredible follow on social media, breaking down the X's and O's with clips and your analysis, or you've got your own podcast with Nikias, the Dunker Spot, which is part of the 342 Productions. You're not just like us that are just sitting here, Amin from his front office and Maze and I from just podcasting and whatnot. You actually were an assistant coach.
Yeah, I worked in the video room, did some coaching. So, I mean, I think I try to like come from a different perspective with it and try and like give some of the context of what goes on, if that makes sense. So I did a lot of playoff prep. So I understand what goes into like a game plan. So when people are like throwing Jalen Green over the top rope, I understand the performance is bad. I also understand there are a whole bunch of people who spent a lot of time. How do we make Jalen Green look as bad as humanly possible? Like there's a flip side to this where we always talk about the offense and the production. I'm like, there are people whose job it is to make other people's lives hell. And when they do it well, we should probably lean on that and be like, hey, they did a good job. Hey, why does James Harden struggle in Game 7s? Shout out to my guy, but hey, you're not going to do the things you do well. That's like, right. There's game plans for this. We take things away. So it's like, that to me is important. I feel like that can be missing sometimes. Not that it's always needed, but I just like the additional context of like, for example, I'm just going on a rant. A lot of Amin Thompson praise, right? Very well deserved. Great series. He's on the rise. I understand it. I mean, Tom, has he seen anything that looks like a game plan from a defense?
No.
You're not on the report. You're not on the sheet.
There are certain guys where, and I'll use Jaren Jackson Jr. as an example because I got in arguments about this during the season. He had a great year. My point was, I don't know if they're spending more than 5 minutes on him in the coaching meeting. Not that he can't hurt you, not that he can't beat you, but hey, force him left. Take care of the drives. We'll figure it out. Now, that Ja Morant guy, what are we going to do with him in pick and roll? How are we going to defend their cuts? Like, conceptually, you're either in this box of you're playing so well that we have to plan against you, especially playoff time. That's the highest compliment. Or pretty good. I think we can survive.
Yeah, well, I want to know because Amin Thompson, he had some incredible plays this postseason, and the offensive talent's all there. The offensive potential is all there. Where he had that behind the back like lay-in around Steph, and it was just like this ridiculously athletic, skilled play. You can make the argument that he's a great postseason performer already, but in terms of the ceiling of the Houston Rockets, you can argue this is a guy that is not close to a finished product, and that's exciting. But Jalen Green, you mentioned it, 38 points in game 2. Who is the guy that you're game planning the most, Steve? Like when you're going into a matchup against the Houston Rockets, I don't know if it's Thompson. I don't know if it's Jalen Green. Like, does that mean that they don't have a number one guy?
They don't have a number one A1 guy, but it's probably how do we make Şengün uncomfortable and what do we do to disrupt Jalen Green's flow and his rhythm? I thought that's what Golden State did. And he has to learn how to read the game, which is part of a young guard's journey. In my opinion, you play your way into a different coverage or a different mindset, and he just didn't really make the reads. The Golden State never let him get comfortable. They let Fred get comfortable, and like they're like, Fred, here's your drop. And I was watching, I was like, Fred, you got to take these shots. Fred took those shots, and then Golden State was like, hey, let's not do that anymore. You're not going to beat us. Let's do some different things there. But like with Jalen Green, the tough part was like Draymond Green is so good when he's at the level of a screen of not necessarily telling you what he's going to do. And so for Jalen Green, you could see he was in automatic mode. Oh, he's up here. Cool. I could turn the corner probably because the drives have been there. Oh, God, this is a switch. Mm-hmm. Now, this is where him being young doesn't help him because he did his job by getting the Draymond switch. I should probably get this to Big Goon. I did my portion. No, I'm going to shoot or attack. Error. high pick and roll. He's trying to look and see where they at. They go try and go high pick and roll. They jumped him early in the series at times. So now he's trying to back dribble. It's like, no, you have to accept that trap. That's your job. You got 2 on the ball. Get it out and let them play. He tried it in game 7, had a good pocket pass, had a couple that weren't so good pocket passes. But that's where he hasn't had ever been in that scenario. And it's not an excuse, but it's like, yeah, they tortured that man because he's never seen these lights before.
First time at the rodeo. First time at the rodeo. Steve, I'm curious about like the concept of adjustments in the game 7, because if you think about what Houston did to get back in the series, they started playing Steven Adams a lot more. They started to kind of impose their will on the offensive glass, and that worked. It worked tremendously for them. And then in game 7, you could argue that was a liability, that they should have gone away from Steven Adams. They should have played probably Jabari Smith a whole lot more. And what was their advantage ended up being kind of part of their undoing, particularly on the offensive end, because not only could they not get anything going on primary offense, but he wasn't quite the offensive rebounding threat, whether that's effort by the Warriors, whether the scheme's different, whatever reason, he wasn't quite the same impact. And once that was the case, it was pretty much checkmate for the Rockets on the offensive end. And so as you're watching the game real time, are you yelling, man, you got to make a switch? Or are you saying, wait a second, let it bear out because it's worked so well for the last few games?
That's the tough part about when you find something in a series, as far as like everyone likes to talk about a lineup or this is the way, this is the thing. Okay, but what if that doesn't work anymore? You are now out of things. So I think for me, real time watching it, my concern level came once it looked like Golden State started to figure out a couple things against that zone. Because Houston was lights out with that zone. They were passing bodies off. They were matched up. It was delightful, fun to watch. They were just causing the Warriors hell. Every gap was closed. There's a couple plays where things started to open up. You know, Jimmy Butler cuts back door at the same time that Steph cuts back door. Shouldn't happen at the same time. But boy, the matchups were tilted. And it's like, oh no. Mm-hmm. There's another one. I think Buddy Hield passed up a 3, but it's like those were openings they didn't have before. So if that's not going to be good, that's a problem. And then I think the other portion was what they kind of did to Fred as far as Draymond messing with him as far as I'm going to be back and I'm going to be a drop. We'll turn into a late switch. You're not getting the pull up 3 as much. Then it's like, okay, I don't know if y'all have a thing offensively. And the thing that gives you the wiggle room is also getting hit. So that's where it's like, okay, we need Şengün to be able to attack these switches. He put pods under the rim once. I don't know many times it happened again, and he didn't have fun with Draymond. That's probably where the number one guy conversation enters, because what do we lean on? So I thought Jabari maybe could have got more minutes, but it's hard when a big part of why you came back was Steven Adams. So it's like, and your identity is defense anyway. So if we can get these stops, we're going to give ourselves a chance. I think they rolled the dice as much as they could. And I thought it was a decent comeback in the third. They just didn't have enough offense. And that Golden State took away the things they found. So they were right back in the mud, the bad tempo, oh no, someone's open.
Why is Draymond such a savant defensively in your mind? Because like Alpi tried to get like one-on-one ISOs, like felt like he might have had a matchup there to exploit, and Draymond he's like a wall, dude.
He's a maniac. He does his work early. He's not going to let you catch in your spots. Off ball, we know he's very good at that. But as far as the Şengün portion, if Draymond pushes the catches out, he's going to be able to eat at least one or two of the back downs. So now what's your counter if you're not burying him or getting deep post position? It's just like, when small guards are able to guard like a Karl-Anthony Towns at times, it's just positioning. Like if I push you out far enough, I'm strong enough to be able to take whatever your hit is. If you catch it closer, we're in trouble. But I'm going to bet that you're not going to do that. And I'm going to be able to cause havoc. And then the mixture, that's the other part of that two big lineup. Draymond can be on Şengün, but then Draymond could also be on Steven Adams and Rome and make sure to tell everyone where they need to be. And that's his value. But I just don't think Şengün was able to get to the spots he needed to really poke at Draymond.
So when you go ahead, Tom.
I was gonna jump to Timberwolves, so go ahead.
Me too. Same thing. Same thing. So okay, so
they just back cut at the same time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Double back cut. I appreciate it.
Who are you gonna pass to? It's gonna be Amin, right?
I'm swinging to the wing.
You just tried to grab the ball again. So what's going on?
Steve, when you think about the T-Wolves, and they had some success as well in their first round series, playing two big lineups, playing Rudy and Julius Randle out there, or Rudy and Naz Reid at the same time. Do you see the same thing playing out in the Golden State series, or are they more likely to throttle down with their lineups to match up with Golden State?
Ooh, see, I think it'll be similar, but it'll be different. And I think it's because the versatility of Minnesota's bigs, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where Naz Reid and Julius Randle together are two bigs, but are they? And so it's not necessarily going to have the same defensive impact, but it's going to be a lot different offensively as far as having to deal with those two together. So I think mindset will be similarly. Golden State may feel more comfortable attacking those two. But they're going to have to deal with them on the other end. Like, I mean, I think one of the big differences has been Julius Randle and his drive and the force that he has with them. I think the Western Conference got really comfortable and in a rhythm with, we're putting a wing on Karl-Anthony Towns, we'll switch, pushes catch outs, we're fine. Julius Randle's a little bit of a different force as far as, hey, if I have a matchup I like, you're coming to the block with me. You're coming to the elbow with me. I'm going to hit you in the chest and we're going to see what happens. I might draw a foul, but that's where I think the difference will be. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Minnesota adjusts to this series. I was thinking about it. You played the Lakers. You knew they were switching, right? We know you're going to show help on Anthony Edwards. We kind of found a rhythm. We're going to switch on the other end. Golden State got a lot of movement. So they got to kind of get back to playing defense in a different way. But at the same time, they can put Steph in action. They can put Buddy Hield in action. So they can still kind of poke at things. So I'm intrigued to see how they try to deal with it. But that culture shock of the start of a series is always interesting to me.
Yeah, with the first 5 minutes of a game, you're watching what? Like Warriors, Timberwolves. Like what are you looking for?
Ooh, the attempt in the matchups. So I like to see what you're trying to do. Who are you trying to put on who? Are you switching off ball right away? Are there certain actions you're not switching right away? What's Rudy doing in pick and roll? What's he doing off ball? Is he going to put two on the ball against Steph on a pin down? What's that going to open up? How do you treat Jimmy Butler? Is that the Jaden McDaniels matchup? How is Steph going to guard pick and roll? Probably a show and recover. Who are you starting? What's Draymond doing pick and roll against Anthony Edwards? What's their help look like? So just those kind of things are rolling through my mind, just to kind of like put it in the back of my head, like, okay, this was the attempt. Did it work? And if it didn't work, what are they going to try and do now to counter against it?
What do you think their initial assignments are going to be?
I would be surprised.
Does Kevon get the start?
Here's the thing. Golden State sure rolled a lot of lineups out there in that first round series. Like, I know some of it was forced, but like, I was like, wait a minute, what is y'all's thing right now? And so I'm in my mind.
In Game 7, those minutes were ridiculous. I was like, what are you doing? Like, we had Maxi Kleba in the Lakers game where it was like, we gave him like a token 5 minutes, and then we're like, yeah, we're done. Kuminga came out there. I was like, this is a bad idea. And he just looked like a fish out of water.
It's a really hard thing when you throw people out in a Game 7 and you have the idea like this is just to like, it's like a middle reliever. Like, we just need to get through these next 2 minutes. Maybe we get a couple of strikeouts, right? And I say this, I remember I was in Memphis. We played the Clippers. I think Hamed Haddadi was out there in Game 7 for like 6 consecutive minutes. And we got killed for it. But I was like, well, the idea was we need to get big fellas some rest. So like we can finish this game out. It's like 60-62. I think we can make it. We didn't make it. But like, it's hard when those things don't happen. You gotta be ready. I would imagine Draymond's on Rudy to start. Now this is where it gets interesting. You might have to start big unless you just put Jimmy on Ant. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Who guards Randall?
That's a massive question.
See, I think Randall works so much better against the Lakers than he does against.
That's I wanted to get there because to me, the worst possible thing for the team that has Julius Randle is for Randall to get on a hot start. Because then the confidence goes beyond any control, and it's a weird place to be. It's like, it's either if he gets to a hot start, or the polar opposite is also bad when he hasn't been involved. Either one of those things brings out a version of Julius Randle that is over-eager, overzealous, and that takes out of what, to me, if you go beat Golden State, you got to execute. You got to execute to beat them. You can't just go out there, roll the ball out, let's just play, let's just hoop, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to get lulled into this weird kind of Lifetime Fitness pickup game, but they're doing shit. They're like this purposeful, it has intent behind it, and you think it's just, oh, no, now it's my turn. And so, to me, Julius Randle is the X factor, but it's all based on like, how does Minnesota in some way temper he's not too high and he's not too low, because I think either one of those extremes gets him into a place where his decision making just becomes horrendous.
No, I like that. And now that you said that, I'm thinking, if I'm Golden State, do I give Julius Randle bait?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, it's Buddy Hield guarding.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like putting JJ Barea and LeBron, where it's like, we know LeBron does not like going in the post, so let's throw Barea on him, and then he has to like kind of do that, but it's bait, right? It's bait. And
it's different because with LeBron, they were daring him basically, or same thing when Boris was on him, because Boris would just play off of him and say, all right, do something. And then we realized LeBron was kind of limited in terms of what he can do facing, right? But like in this is a different kind of bait. This is come on, yeah, you want the Julius Randle game? Yeah, let Julius Randle, because if the Julius Randle game is happening, guess what's not happening? The Anthony Edwards game, which is way more devastating, way harder to keep contained, because he does so many things dynamically. To me, it's like, yeah, I want Julius Randle because two things. One, it keeps the Anthony Edwards game away. But the other thing is, then it sticks with him. And now he thinks, no, come on, man. Remember when I was eating and then y'all stopped going to me, and like, it's just a whole like second level psychology thing, reverse psychology when you're dealing with Julius Randle. And I say, to be fair, I say this based on watching him with the Knicks. Because that was, look, 2 years ago when they lost to the Heat in the second round. I'll never forget this. I was at Game 3 in Miami, and the Heat were up big. And then the Knicks made a couple, and like, okay, we got something going, and Hart gets it, and he hits it in transition, and Hart hits another one, and Brunson hits one. I'm like, okay, they got one. And I could see in Julius Randle's eyes, like the moment he touches this ball, I don't give a shit if someone's hit 9 threes in a row. This one's going up. And sure enough, got it. And he did some bullshit-ass pump fake, spin move, horseshit, because he hadn't touched the ball. And that was all he was kind of consumed with. And it's one of the reasons why I don't have a lot of confidence in that. Because I think when you get to 7-game series in the playoffs, the need to be thinking about this shit rather than just playing. It's the reason why young players don't do well typically, because they're not used to having, wait, slow down. What are we doing here? Exactly what Steve was talking about, Jalen Green. Like, Draymond's doing something to you on purpose. You think it's like, oh, here we go. It's like, no, he wants you to do this. And so the thing that if I'm Golden State, let's see. So I got Curry on Conley to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then do I start Looney? This is where it gets crazy. Like, do you start Looney or do you start small with Draymond and Jimmy? And then if I start small with Draymond and Jimmy, I put Draymond on Rudy just for the fireworks. Just to make it spicy. And then I don't think I put Jimmy on. Or maybe I do put Jimmy on. Now, see, I'm mind fucking myself. Hold on.
See, right? This is where you get stuck, right? You want Jimmy to roam, but Buddy healed on Ant.
Yeah.
No.
Nah,
they need Moody to come back and play well again defensively.
Yeah. So Moody on Edwards. Yeah, Moody on Edwards. Curry on Conley. Draymond on Rudy. And then I got McDaniels and Randall left. So I guess I got to put Brandon on McDaniels. And then Jimmy on Julius Randle? No, but that doesn't achieve what I want. I want Julius. All right, okay. Steve, your turn.
Well, no, I was gonna say what Jimmy can actually probably do the bait thing that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
As far as him giving a slight bit of disrespect to, go ahead, man. I can eat your drive. So go ahead. You can come hit me. You gonna shoot? Yeah. You're not gonna shoot. Yeah. Just a couple of those. That's all. Just all he needs, and then the rest of the way you can play it straight up. Go ahead.
What about the other way around? Do you put McDaniels on Steph, or do you go Conley on Steph?
Oh, see, it depends. Like, I wish Steve Kerr would just tell me who he started, so I can figure this out. Like, come on, buddy.
Go.
I think he might. There's going to be a lot of switching. So does he want to start with just Mike on Curry and just have that end up being a switch because he's going to move around anyways?
Right.
I just, how much switching is Randall going to do? And how much is he going to be involved in action? That's where I get curious.
And then the next part of it is also what we saw Udoka do was at some point was like, we're putting 2 on Steph. We're forcing that like immediately. And we're hoping that everything stays sound before it can get back to him. So when do you pull that out if you're Minnesota? Or do you play him straight and just switch and hope that's enough?
This is where it's going to be an interesting Rudy Gobert series. Is he ready to defend and get to the level of the screen multiple times? Because that's the thing about Golden State. If you're a big and you're sitting there and you think you've done your job, Steph Curry's flying off a screen, you got to get back up. That opens up a role. We've seen that for how many years now? So I imagine Rudy will start high, at least at the level. Maybe not trap right away, but he's going to have to be up there. He's going to have to get out. And that's going to be the difference for Minnesota. There's not going to be that same kind of comfort where they had rhythm in the Lakers series, where at least we know what we're going to do. And if we get hit, we get hit. They're going to have to fly around a little bit. So I think Rudy will be up, but not trapping right away. I'd probably say like game 3, we might see that.
Steve,
although I will say Minnesota tried so desperately not to trap Luka and almost fell into that trap in game 4, and it almost went bad for him. But continue.
Well, I was just gonna say you were on the bench with Mike Conley, and now he's still starting NBA games in the year 2025. You also, I think that first year with under Dave Yeager, you guys played OKC in the first round with Memphis?
Yep, sure did.
Okay. There's Kevin Durant playing in that game, Russell Westbrook and Steven Adams and Mike Conley. A decade later, which player are you most surprised is playing at the level that they're at? a decade later after being in that series and watching them play. It's 2014 playoffs, KD, Russ.
Tom, you could also throw in Harden, who Steve went to college with. So
it's very true.
That's another guy that was
had to guard that man every day for a year, and then I transferred. I would probably say Steven Adams, just because that type of big usually doesn't age well, especially these days. So that's probably the most surprising. Mike is Mike. And I think Mike's been way better than people have thought for years. So I'm not surprised by that.
A small guard, it's usually not a long career playing at this level. You just don't see it.
See, that's when I got mad when everyone did their previews and was like, can Mike Conley guard Austin Reeves? I'm like, yeah, I think he can.
The people who ask that question, the same people who try to say Austin Reeves, best third option in the league. That Venn diagram is the same people.
Austin Reeves is talented, but I mean, this guy's had to guard every great guard in the Western Conference forever. I think he'll figure it out. Like, I had confidence. I'm probably more surprised James is shooting mid-range step backs more than anything, but I always knew he'd probably be like this. So I don't know. You know what's surprising? Like, Jared Jackson, assistant coach. I'll tell a quick story. I was in Brooklyn with Jared Jack, and I remember one day we were like practice, just messing around. He's like, "This is what you want to do in life?" I was like, "Yeah." "This fun for you?" I was like, "Yeah." All right. And then I look up on my TV and Jared Jack's clapping. And I'm like, man. I'm like, all right, buddy. But no, he gets it in. But that's been the most interesting dynamic, to see players who would think of a certain way about coaching and media do coaching and media with the gleeful smiles on their face. So I'm like, this is a new era.
Loving that shit. That's the crazy. Not that they're doing it, that they love it. Mm-hmm. Out here, I'm like, I remember how you used to be. And they used to be surprised that people would be at the facility like after hours. Like, what are you doing here? Like, what the fuck you think I'm doing, man? My job. My job. That's your job is you do this and then you go home. I don't get to go home. I stay here this whole time.
Is there a player, Steve, that you looked at as a player, you were like, oh, I think he's going to go into coaching. Like, he's going to have a long coaching career. And then he never went into it for reasons. It could be a variety of reasons. Because I remember I saw Chris Paul a couple years ago, and I was like, dude, everyone thinks you're going to be like an amazing head coach, and you're going to be so addicted to the game and the grind and the competition that you got to stay in the game, and you're going to be a great head coach. And he was like, nah, man, too much travel. I want to see my kids grow up, and like I want to be there. I hate being away from home. I kind of feel like he's going to be a great head coach one day, and that it's just going to be very hard for him to not be around the NBA game and the competition. But if he's right, then he's not going to be an NBA head coach. He doesn't want that.
Hey, Tom, the one thing I'll say is, you know what they say about kids, right? They grow up. Right now, that sounds like a good answer because the kid's like 8 or 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
Once they get to be like 15, 16, they're like, get out of my face, man.
You're self-sufficient. Hey, you got any work for me? Probably, I think they just went different paths. Tayshaun Prince, he just went the front office route. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I didn't think Mike Miller would coach, but I was like, Mike Miller, he could do it. And I don't think he wants to, but he could. Yeah. He didn't want to.
Agent. He's an agent.
But they're all staying in the game at a high level. Like, damn. Mike Miller being one of the most prominent player agents in the game and has his own podcast.
Again, here we go.
Okay, we need a list of who doesn't have their own podcast at this point. Honestly, if you go to Basketball Reference and pull up a certain All-Star game, how many players don't have a podcast? That's my new game. I'm gonna
play this game right now. Hold on. Bear with me here. 2007 All-Star game. Here we go. Let's go. All-Star. All right, yeah. Box score.
I saw Marcus Gasol was on like Zebo's pod, like with Tony Allen. I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going in order. Yes, At the Mud is the name of the podcast. All right, so Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, but he kind of had, I mean, like Detail was kind of like a very video heavy podcast, but a podcast nonetheless. I'm sure after the pandemic, it would have evolved into a lot more interview based. Tracy McGrady, no. Although he doesn't have a podcast, but he has people that they do content for him because he's got that one-on-one league. And he's also on the agency side or whatever. But periodically I see these like interviews with Tracy McGrady and it's just him at a gym. So I'm like, I think that kind of counts. Dirk. Amazon, does that count? Doing play-by-play or whatever, all right? Tim Duncan is a no. KG is an absolute yes. Carmelo is a yes. Tony Parker, I think, has one in French. Not sure. Sean Marion, no. Ray Allen, no. Amari Stoudemire, no. Josh Howard.
Tony Parker, Le Podcast.
And then Mehmet Okur rounds out your Western Conference All-Stars. In the East, you have LeBron, yes. Dwayne Wade, yes. Chris Bosh. Does Bosh have one?
I don't think so.
No.
Gilbert Arenas, yes. Shaquille O'Neal, yes. Jermaine O'Neal, no. Dwight Howard, no, although freaking collaborator. Joe Johnson, no, and thank God. Yeah, I mean, look, Joe's great. No, Joe's great, but come on, he's not a talker. You gonna put Joe? You gonna put a microphone in front of Joe?
He's not a talker. He's a hooper.
You're gonna get like 5 words out of him, right?
You were gonna get one clip out of Joe Johnson. One clip. I think my favorite Joe Johnson moment was on the road in Brooklyn. I was up at like 4:30 in the morning to get ready to clip some film. I open up the elevator. It's just Joe Johnson, sweaty with a yoga mat. No words were exchanged. And then he just nodded on his way out, and I was like, "Yep, that's Joe." So I don't think
that's a long, heartfelt conversation for Joe Johnson. Head nod.
Great guy though.
Yeah, great guy. And then as we go on here, let's see, Vince Carter, no, does media work. Caron Butler, no. Miami Woodland, and then Richard Hamilton is a no, but that's a strong 60%.
Vince Carter, the VC show with Vince Carter.
Okay,
so yes,
corrected.
And you said Caron Butler, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, no, he's assistant coach with the Heat. Then he might have had one at one point, but not anymore.
It's one of the great mysteries.
He had
probably
the
can't listen to
podcast 4 years.
I probably can't listen to Vince Carter's podcast because he blocked me on Twitter. So
that's one of the great mysteries.
What did you do to Vince?
I have no idea. Still, it's a great mystery. He was my favorite player as a kid. Like all my tweets have always been like praising Vince Carter. Like I have posters in my room of me drawing Vince Carter, cover of Sports Illustrated. Like I was obsessed with this guy. There's the Ringer. The Ringer did the AOL screen name. Like what was your first AOL AIM screen name? Mine was #1 heel fan. Okay. That's my flex is like, I was the #1 heel fan who got blocked by Vince Carter. It's very upsetting to me.
But that's not how you identify. And maybe when you were a child, yes, but as an adult, you talk a lot of that Wake Forest bullshit. Maybe that's why you're looking behind them. You get the Muggsy Bow.
Okay, right. So how did you discover this though? And was that a moment of pain?
But huge pain. I was like out of the movies. I'm like tearing down, like tears are coming down my face. I'm tearing down the posters. I'm like having a vigil where I'm just like lighting my paintings on fire of Vince Carter. And I'm just like,
your wife is like, are you okay?
No, I'm not okay. All right. What happened? Vince Carter blocked me on Twitter. I don't know to this day. And like, he's in Atlanta. So I could feasibly like at the next Hawks game or whatever. I don't think he's coming down to Charlotte.
Pull up on it.
Yo, what's the deal? And he probably has no idea. He has no idea who I am. But it hurts me in my soul. So,
like, yeah, maybe I will be. He's like, I remember what you wrote about Andre Drummond.
I don't know, man. It pains me to this day. So, Steve, you're looking at this Indiana-Cleveland series. Indiana beats them at Cleveland. Darius Garland's not playing. What did you see in that game that can have some carryover into game 2? Because I thought it was just make or miss league. Like one team could shoot the shit out of the ball and the other one could not hit anything. And when you lose 30 points in the 3-point column, it's going to be tough to win a game. But there's schematics underneath that. What did you see?
I mean, I was watching it back again today, and I think the biggest thing I've learned in this playoffs, the Indiana Pacers are such a machine on offense And the Cavs are not the Bucks, and this is a different series, but there were moments with how the Pacers were making the Cavs rotate that reminded me of the first round series. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Y'all are unsure about some of these coverages. Y'all are getting beat by drive and kick. Y'all are over helping. Indiana can get whatever shot they want. Indiana just punished his breakdowns. And so the way they treated Jared Allen, and I think Tyrese Halliburton deserves a lot of credit for how he diagnoses the court. Like, I don't know if he gets enough of the quarterback love as far as him being able to see what a defense is doing, get the ball where it needs to go and play. But like, they tried to do hey, Jared Allen, you go on Pascal Siakam, and Tyrese is like, cool. You come in action. Are you on the level, or we're going to skip it? We're going to pass the ball. I'm going to drive and kick. I'm going to be aggressive and get to my shot when I need to. And they just are able to move the ball from side to side, force Cleveland to defend, force them to sustain defense. And any breakdown, they just get you. And like the shots from Nembhard, from Neesmith, those back-breaking end of clock threes, those add up over the course of a game. You never really feel it in the moment, like, ooh, that's a tough shot. But those are like good Cleveland defensive reps that are ending in Indiana points. And I think one of the things is like Indiana, we talk about their pace. We got to talk about their tempo. Like, they get the ball up the court so quick. So with 21 on the clock, they're already starting to get into something. As a defense, if you look at the first 12, 14 seconds of what a defense has to guard against Indiana, they've put pressure on you. And so you've had to guard 2-3 actions. And now you have to finish the stop. And they have these off-ball flare screens. They have the cutting. They're able to get to drive and kick. If you make a mistake, they just hurt you so quickly. And so that, to me, is my takeaway, is that Cleveland just got to be a little bit better defensively. Like, I don't think they were ready for Indiana's just continuous pace. Like, they tried to press Halliburton, right? And it was one of the funniest things. Halliburton would just point to someone, like, throw it there, and then I'll go get the ball, and then we'll just get right back to business. Like, that's not going to work against us. I think Cleveland tried a box and one at one point for a single possession with Sam Merrill denying. And Bennett Mathurin cut back doors, a skip pass for a three. And it's like, you can't do that either. So it was more so that I think, one, I hope Cleveland gets healthy. Like, they need Darius Garland. They need DeAndre Hunter. They need Evan Mobley. I don't even know what's going on in Cleveland, but they need to be healthy. But I think the interesting part for Cleveland, it was the first game, it felt like their tempo was a little off. They were a little slow. The ball wasn't moving from side to side as much. And when they drove the ball, Indiana worked to stay at home. So they didn't have the drive and kick layer that they usually do. So they got 70 points in the paint, but they couldn't make any threes because the threes they generated weren't the same kinds they usually do. It was Max Strus saying, yep, I'm here, or Donovan saying, yep, I'm here. But it wasn't the same kind of flowy that they had during the regular season.
I'm glad you honed in on that, because this is now the second straight year where during the regular season, Indiana is at best the middle of the road defense. And second straight playoffs where I'm watching them, and they go through these stretches where they're really good defensively. Like, they're versatile, and they've got multiple guys that shut down point of attack. And so how much of this is just the simplicity of playoff basketball, where I don't have to worry about where we are tomorrow? I'm just worried about one opponent at a time, or is Indiana just an underachieving defense in the regular season?
Dude, I want to say it's a mix of both, but I'd probably say I've always liked them better in a playoff context where we can focus in on this. This is what we are willing to give up. Everything else, we're fine. So there's a certainty to it. In the regular season, they don't have that same base of certainty, and they're not as strong of a base defensively. So it's not like, when they're, playing and pressuring the ball, they get beat on a drive. The rotation is not the same. They don't look as good. But in this game, as you mentioned, where they look good, it was we're denying, we're physical, we're taking away your movement, we're getting you deep in the clock, because this is what we're willing to give up. And pick and roll, we know exactly what we have to do. And so I think the biggest thing in the playoffs is, like, when you have that game plan, it's not necessarily that it's always going to work, but there's a certainty behind it as far as we're giving these shots up. This is the poison we've chosen. And it's on the other team to make you be like, actually, you should probably reconsider. That's not a good idea. But if they don't do that, we're locked in. Like, this is what we're doing. We're going to be active. We're going to be in your chest. We're not going to let you feel comfortable. So I think that's Indiana's, that's their plus in the playoffs. They know exactly what they want to do defensively. And then offensively, it's very rare that teams put them in a box. It's very rare they feel uncomfortable in the playoffs, outside of maybe Boston at times. Outside of that, they just kind of go.
Steve, I'm wondering, when you were a coach, you're in the locker room, you're on the bus, you're at the hotel. Come playoff time, how much does the media matter? Because Tyrese Halliburton, after he won that game, tweets out, "Overrate that."
Well, that's not the media. Like Hold on.
I know.
That's his. Hey, that's his boys.
Hey, the Athletic posted it. Okay, they did the survey. The players obviously voted that, but he took that as bulletin board material and said overrate that. After Anthony Edwards beat the Lakers, he's saying mocking Shannon Sharp, Lakers in 5. As a motivating factor in the playoffs to get the players to do what you want them to do is, here's the scouting report, here's what we need you to do. How much of the motivating factor is like, they don't believe that you guys can win this series, or they don't think you can guard this guy? Like, how do you use like bulletin board material as a leverage point to get players to listen or do what you want them to do without them thinking they're doing that because they want you to do it as an X's and O's thing? Is it more like proving people wrong?
Well, one, the best is when the players do it on their own and you just hear about it, or you hear them start talking a certain way. You know what they said about you, right? That's the funniest one, is when they kind of do that. But I think you're always trying to find a way to gain a competitive edge and tap into these guys' brain in a way that no one believes in us. And so a little bit of an advantage, because I was in Memphis, so you could just tap that button every single day in some way, shape, or form, and just tap Tony Allen on the shoulder and be like, they don't think you can guard this really good player. You can't guard KD. Hey, Mike, they don't think you can guard Russ. Hey, big fella, they don't think you can score on Serge Ibaka. Like, it was just easy to just kind of just tap those guys and be like, hey, chip on shoulder. And so they would just take the ownership. I think on the other side, shout out, you mentioned the Memphis OKC series. Shout out to whoever wrote that article on the day of Game 6 about Kevin Durant, I forgot what they called him.
Mr. Unreliable.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It came out in the middle of the day. I was folding laundry, getting ready to take a nap, and I had SportsCenter on the background, and then that popped up, Mr. Unreliable. And I'm like,
it's Barry Thamel, right? He was
Barry
Windhorst. Oh wait, no. It was a Thunder extra.
It was Barry wrote it, but the editor wasn't him, right?
As a journalism rule, we don't write our headlines. Yeah,
I've never my heart sunk in my chest. I think I left the laundry out. I was like, oh man, I just hope we're in trouble. And then we lost Game 6, and the rest is history. But I think it's less the media and more just like they are able to grasp onto something and know, hey.
Doubters, haters, whatever you want to call it, people who doubt your abilities.
Well, also, athlete brain is kind of messed up in a way. Like, I remember back when I played in college, if you didn't say hi to me the right way, I used that as fuel. Like, you said good morning to someone else in the hall, and then I walk by you like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, all right, man.
Let's go.
I'll see you in practice. You know what I mean? It doesn't take much to build a chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, and playoff time, I feel like you got to tap into all of those reservoirs, right? Because it's in some ways you have to make it personal because it brings out the best in some of the players, but maybe not for every player. I don't know if you have a particular story about when
they're going the wrong way.
Bulletin board material gone bad. Where
like, maybe they do, maybe they're right.
Let's see. How can I phrase this? There was a guard when I was in Brooklyn who didn't enjoy the start of the playoffs and the conversation around him, and then had one really good game in the first round against the Hawks. Darren Williams.
Darren?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's man. One day scientists are going to explain to me what happened to Darren Williams. Man, was it just he just needed the flex offense? That was it. That was the undoing.
Oh man, we tried.
I could see the pain in Steve's face, just like, was it the flex?
Maybe
we tried that.
Maybe we just run some flex for him. He'll feel that more at home again. Oh,
you
man.
just triggered me because that was literally an entire meeting.
God damn.
No, if we put these actions in, I think if we do that, yeah. What you mean Joe's gonna be mad? He'll be all right. He'll still get the ball. No, I'll get him in the post. We'll be fine. But no,
he's gonna do his yoga. He'll be fine. Yeah.
No, he was not getting talked about well in the first 2 games. And he went 1 of 8 when we came back home, won the game. Then he scored like 35 in Barclays. And it was like, oh my God, we got a chance. We lost in 6 games.
Yeah. The playoffs, man. I love this time of year.
It's looking at your roster there. Brooke, Boyan, Darren, right?
Yep.
Joe?
Yep.
Joe's there.
And for some reason, the next name that's coming to mind is like Jorge Gutierrez.
No, we had Thaddeus because we had KG.
Oh, yeah.
We traded him.
Right.
Earl Clark.
Paul Westphal was on your bench?
Yeah, he was. Legendary guy.
Great. Yeah, man. Listen, that's El Trey be bringing the band back together.
Man,
Lana always brings the old reliables, man.
That was a blessing. The top basketball Paul was, man.
Yeah.
I was so lucky to do that. That was tremendous. He was just a great human.
R.I.P.
Rest his soul. Yeah, Earl Clark got us in the playoffs.
Yeah,
because he wanted to make the roster. He's on the 10-day, won us a game, and we squeaked it at the end. Shout out to Earl Clark.
Shout out to Earl Clark. That's my guy. Drafted him in Phoenix. That was one of my pet projects.
Did you know Jeff Teague had this in him? This podcast career. Speaking of players who have podcasts, did you have any clue? Because you guys played them Atlanta in that first round series, right? And then that was Al Horford, that was Jeff Teague, Paul Millsap, Kyle Korver. Did Jeff talk as much shit as it seems like? In every one of these clips, he's always talking shit to the other team.
I couldn't hear it. I didn't know he had this in him. It makes sense now when you look back at it, but he just looked like he was going fast and going in and out and trying to get to a pull up. I didn't see all this in him. I had a deep dislike for that team because in my brain I was like, they're not that good, but I could not say it because they were very good and we weren't very good, so we couldn't beat them. But we came close, and it's just like there's nothing about that when you're on that side where it's like this team is not that good, and I got nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it.
You went 2-2. Okay. So you tied up 2-2. Lost by 7 game 1, lost by 5 game 2. So it's close. Yeah, and then you take the next 2 games. I mean, that's a close series for a 1-8. You guys had them on the ropes.
Man, it's the game 2 loss. I just remember being very sad eating the Chick-fil-A provided by Atlanta. And then I learned a harsh lesson about elimination games, right? It can go one way. It can also go the other very quickly. I'm sitting there like, oh, we got a shot. We're going to take it back to Atlanta. We good. I look up. We down by 15. I'm like, hey. Hey.
That's tough.
That's the worst. That's the worst feeling.
I saw Tari Eason on the sidelines, like getting consoled by Schmidt, and I was like,
I felt bad, man. I felt bad because it hit home. Like, for these guys, this is their first rodeo, right? And the only thing they have to compare it to is probably like March Madness. Mm-hmm. And in March Madness, you see that all the time. Team gets eliminated, guys crying on the sideline. Like in an NBA setting, I was like, "That's what the fuck? Is he crying?" Then I was like, I mean, like, you don't know any better, man. Like, this is for him. This is kind of like the most crushing moment because again, you go to a 7th game, you're at home. This is what you played all year long for. I'm sure that's what Coach said, man. We played all year long, so we would have this game 7. We would host this, and for it to be a close game and like, oh man, we're not so great, but like we've withstood everything and then one guy gets a cramp, and then one guy gets a clear path, and then all of a sudden, this is the thing I keep going back to. All these guys are young guys, right? Tari Eason, Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, whatever. Meaning, most of them were probably about 8 to 11 years old when Steph put Delly in a hospital. And so at some point in a play, I said this when they played the Kings in a game 7 a couple years ago. At some point, you realize, oh, I'm not competing against Steph Curry that I played against all year long, and so what? Big deal. I played against him. Like, oh shit, that's that monster from the movie that I saw when I was a kid. Freddy Krueger's here. Like, man, that first possession when Thompson went out, or Steph grabbed the rebound and saw Jalen Green on him, and you the whole time, all the way up the court, I was like, oh shit, man. His whole body language changed. It's like, I'm about to fuck this kid up right now. And between the legs, step back. And my father was sitting on the couch, and even my dad was like, woo! Because he shot that shit so, the arc on it was crazy. It's one of those things, I think it's the single greatest advantage that this Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and the Warriors have, is that when things start going their way in a tense playoff situation, there's I've seen it with Michael Jordan 20, 30 years ago. People start to realize, fuck, that thing that I saw on that tape, come fly with me and all that shit. Oh, now I'm in that tape. It's like watching the Twilight Zone and then realizing, oh, I'm not watching it. I'm in it. I'm the guy that's going to get, stabbed or drowned or whatever. And I think in those moments, that's part of what allows for that swelling of confidence on one side and that shrinking on the other. It's that they've seen it before, but they hadn't seen it like sitting at home because we got eliminated, or seen it like, oh, I was on the bench and this happened to me before. Something about when you saw when you were a kid and realized he's still doing this shit right now. Something else, man.
See, something I deal with a lot is like looking at the matchups and going back to the regular season, looking at the the season series, looking at who was on the floor. 10 years ago, that was really useful, is to go back to the season series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the Stars missing so many of these games and these trades like Luka to the Lakers and Jimmy to the Warriors, right? I find myself becoming more grasping at straws on what to like go off of in these series, because the data just isn't there. The film just isn't there. You could say like, oh, when these two teams match up, this is how Jimmy was playing. But Jimmy hasn't played against this Timberwolves team. Mm-hmm. So you don't have that tape. Is that as frustrating for you operating more as a film guy than, say, me, who's like more into the numbers and looking at the data? Like, how frustrating is that you're kind of making predictions on what will happen, not because it did happen in the regular season, but you're kind of taking these puzzle pieces that were in different puzzle piecing boards and you're kind of fitting them all together in the postseason?
It's the adjustment for sure, especially over the last 2-3 years, where you're I'm gonna sit down. I'm going to break down this clip. The series coming up. Let's go. Check the box score. Oh, they didn't play. That's cool. Let me go to this other one. Oh, these guys didn't play. So it's like, which game do I want to see? How much of a concept can I understand what they try to do? It's like, for most of these semifinals, I was in that box where it's like, okay, Cleveland and Indiana really haven't played each other. So I can kind of watch the latest game to kind of see attempts, and I can kind of see what they tried to do, try to read. So I'm not going to have an answer. So you kind of, for me, film-wise, I have to widen it to just the overall concepts as opposed to where you kind of poke at, they specifically did this.
Is it at that point, does if you're throwing the head-to-head out, is the recency take more precedence?
See, that's where the recency helps, because I know what they're doing right now. Right. And then it's just trying to figure out, is there something they try to do to each other? And then you kind of try to marry the two in a sense. So that's where, like,
it's got to be maddening though. You guys as video coordinators, you could basically go into a series matchup and know like these guys are going to be playing because they played in the regular season and we know what they like to do. But now I kind of feel like a lot of that is just a mystery.
It is. But I think, you know what? See, you triggered a memory, video coordinators. I used to always have a backup edit for if a star player was going to be out, because I knew the coach wouldn't have it. So
absolutely. Absolutely, because then they get the Mr. Oh, he's back. And it's like, shit. Like, yes, you got to absolutely have that one ready. You got to prep as if he's there.
So yeah, Tom, my theory, I'm going off track, but like the toughest game to win for people is when star players are out, because the prep has not been done properly, because I've seen it with my own eyes where, you've not actually watched this team. So you have no idea what they look like without Cade Cunningham or insert star here, right?
Right.
They're a little different.
There are those John Morant games where he was out, and then the Grizzlies would just win without him, and everybody's worried because he's gone. But then Desmond Bane steps up. All of a sudden, it's working.
But yeah, it's frustrating because you want to gain an edge and have a thought, but it's also a good challenge, I think, for me recently. I think the last couple of years, it's been fun to like walk into a series with an open mind to a degree. Like Denver OKC, I don't know what that's going to look like. I think there's 4 things you could try. Which one do I think is best? And so I can kind of talk through it a little bit more as opposed to they did this and they did that and they're going to do this and then they don't do it because it's the playoffs. So it's like a mental exercise, but I hate it. I would love to be able to actually see what they've done and not have to go to January to see Draymond on the court at the same time as Anthony Edwards because he didn't play.
OKC especially, right? Steve is like they had Hartenstein for half the year and Chet for half the year. And then like the last month they were playing them both. For OKC, those 4 players, Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet, and Hartenstein. On the other side, Jokic and Murray. Those 6 players have been on the floor this season for 24 minutes against each other. 24.
Who won,
and
Tom?
I was like, OKC won by 16 in those minutes.
There you go. Plus
140 offensive rating with those 4 dudes going against Jokic and Jamal Murray, by the way. But some of those, Aaron Gordon wasn't there. So then you got to take away almost all of those 24 and be like, we literally have not seen these 4 and these 3 on the court together in this amazing matchup. And so it's just 24 minutes. That's all we have.
Steve, one last question for you from me. James Harden, obviously not the Game 7 performance that he would have liked to have. But the big thing for the Clippers is he has the ability to become a free agent. He can opt out of his deal. I believe it's $34 million is on the table for him. If you were James Harden, would you opt out? And if you're the Clippers and he opted out, how much would you pay to keep him?
You'll want to pay enough to where you are not talked about all summer long. I'll put it that way. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I probably would opt. Like, if you opt out, what are you getting? 2 years? That's the balance, right?
Yeah. Like you're trying to lock in some guaranteed years, basically, is what you're doing. Maybe a 3-year deal, depending on, on the market.
But see, that's the thing. The market is so different these days. Right. I feel like a lot of it is just trades. Like, who has the cap space to sound people outright? So it's
it's all sign and trades now.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, do you just opt out, go for 2+1 around the same mark? You know what I mean? The 30-ish range. Like, I think that's where he's at right now. I know he probably believes he's up more, but I think if you're the Clippers, we want to pay you, but this is what we're paying. I might opt in, honestly.
See, if I'm the Clippers, I'm thinking like I come to him with like, let's do 3 years, 100, or just keep it right around this 33-ish range, and that allows us to still have the flexibility to continue to do things to improve the team. I think if you go north of that, now you're in trouble.
It's hard to imagine teams not extending contracts to a degree, because I feel like they want to keep control of the
cost certainty,
the talent, and then we know what we have, and if we have to make a deal, we know what's out there. So that probably makes a lot of sense. He's getting destroyed for that Game 7, but the Game 6, they needed it.
Yeah. Well, this is my thing when it comes to him and elimination games, is that at this point, rightly or wrongly, there's a reputation out there. You get to Game 7, and the game starts going sideways. You can't end that game with 8 field goal attempts. You can't, because Monday morning they're not going to be talking about, man, I can't believe Norm Powell didn't show up. I can't believe Derrick Jones
He
Jr.
had 13 assists, and no one gives a flying F.
That's my point. That's my point.
No one cares.
My point is, you can't play though. I just took what the defense gave me. Right? As any superstar, I don't believe in an elimination game you get to play like that. If it's going sideways, we'd rather see you go 2 for 19 than 2 for 8, right? Because then it's like he did everything, right? He tried everything. When you're playing this, doing this thing right here, the burden then becomes on other people to continue to do the right thing, even though if they don't, no one's going to remember. No one remembers how like, I'll go a month from now, I'll ask people, how did Chris Dunn play? Chris Dunn played well, by the way. But like, I'll ask that a month from now, people won't remember. They'll remember that he didn't play well. James Harden didn't play well. And so for me, like, I think there comes a time for the superstar in general where if it's going sideways, you have to abort and you got to pull the lever and just try everything. Because the flip side is you don't walk away with the benefit of the doubt, right? For that particular superstar, though, it's happened so many times that I felt like I'm the last person to be like, no, it's not true. Oh, y'all forgot about the good games he had. And now I'm sitting there watching, like you said, game 6 and game 7. I'm like, this how we doing this shit, man? This is how you going out, huh?
I did some research, man. Maybe we should get into that.
Yep.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. But I want to get Steve out of here with a thought. Can you talk to your colleague LeBron and get us on get him on Basketball Illuminati? What do you think? LeBron James. I don't know if you knew. I said LeBron. I don't know if you.
It's like the ref the other night.
Wait, which one?
Is there a different?
Oh, like the senior. Yeah,
senior. Yeah, we want senior on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
I got. By the way,
no comment.
The way Steve looked to the side, I like that LeBron was here the whole time.
Yeah, LeBron was over
there. The next cubicle at 342 Productions.
You'll have to ask Nikias Duncan. I don't have the juice, brothers.
Oh man. Well, we'll work on Steve Nash first, right? I mean, we can maybe go through your channels and Steve.
We can, but Maze is gonna have to up the volume on the supercharge his mic or something because it's gonna be a lot of low talking.
Steve Jones 20 on X. Hey, my guy, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you. Go check out the Dunker Spot podcast. Excellent work there. And you got Trey Murphy now on the pod, which is amazing. That's got to be
Trey Murphy.
The Trey Murphy.
The pride and joy of Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
I'm glad you said Trey Murphy because he's also one of these Trey Murphy the third. Which one are we talking about here?
No, hold on. You got to cut all that because my brain just had a complete short circuit.
You think about the lefty?
You thought Troy Murphy?
The Warrior.
I would Troy Murphy. I see. Problem is, I see Steve, and my brain goes to the 2000s automatically. My brain goes to 2005.
Yeah,
that's on me. I knew what you meant too. I was like, yeah, strong left hand driver, but I was like, I can't say that out loud. So we good. Hey,